So this is my overflowing fish tank, and it's basically a homemade ZeroEdge aquarium. ZeroEdge tanks cost like thousands of dollars, and so I decided to make my own for under $100. So the tank itself is actually just from Meyer, just a typical 5-gallon glass aquarium. The only thing that's special about it is it does have a bowed front glass. So if you have sharp right-hand corners on the front, the water will pull away from the corner, and I want it to be nice and smooth. But other than that, the tank is nothing special. It costs about $30. The water flows, as you can see, down the front 3 sides down into the trough that I built, and this is just PVC plastic that I've glued together. And as you can see, it's very tight to the sides of the tank. The water doesn't actually flow down and around the trough. It flows underneath the tank. The tank is suspended about a ½ inch above the bottom PVC panel by just little chunks of PVC. So the water flows down and underneath the tank to this back piece here where I've got the drain. And I've done a few things to make it drain a little quieter. As you might be able to see, there's a little piece of screen shoved in that hole, and that slows down the flow of the water. And then there's a straw sticking out, and the straw lets air be pulled down with the water without it going glug 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 as like bubbles get pulled down. So both of those keep it relatively quiet. The water comes down here into my sump, which is just a big Tupperware container. As you can see, I've got a little piece of plastic over where the water comes down because sometimes there's bubbles and water ends up splashing up onto my cabinet. But down here is where I keep my filter and my heater so that the tank above is always nice and neat, and I just keep my clutter down here. Right here is just a little tubing that shows me my water level. Not sure if you can see that, but the water just is in that, and it shows me how full the sump is. If the sump is a little too high and the power goes out, the thing will overflow, and if it's too low, the pump will start pulling in air, which can burn out the pump. So the pump itself is a 200-gallon-per-hour pump, and it's down right here, suction cup to the side. It connects to this tubing right there in the middle, and that tubing runs up and connects to this clear pipe, which I've bent twice to 90-degree angles. And to bend it, I just cut slits in the pipe, used a heat gun to heat it up, bent it, and then used acrylic glue to seal the whole thing up. But that brings water up and into the tank, and it pushes the water down on a rock, because without the rock it'll blow gravel around. Now, as you can see there, I've got a small, I'm not sure if the camera's focusing, I've got a small hole in the piping right above the surface of the water, and that prevents this pipe from forming a siphon if the power goes out or the pump stops. Because if the pump stops and I didn't have that hole there, all the water would be siphoned out of the tank into my sump below, and it'd end up overflowing. So the way I have it set up right now, if I turn the pump off, it only drains about a ½ inch, and then the water level stops. So that's the whole piping system. The light above is just, it's actually not for fish, it's just a LED spotlight. Spray painted it black, covered it with a bent PVC panel, and hung it from the ceiling with fishing line so it sort of floats above the tank. The one question that I get asked about this tank is, do fish jump out? And that just depends on the species. The fish I have now are larger, and they don't seem to go to the surface enough to risk jumping out. But before, I had koi, and they had a habit of swimming up the side of the glass to the surface and then back down again, and eventually they got washed over the edge. So as long as you have the right species of fish that are large enough, you won't have any problems with them jumping out or being washed over the edge. So this is my homemade ZeroEdge tank, and I hope you enjoyed just overview of how I set it up.